long overdue to have these type of parades so that our public can see just the disciplined uniformed services that we know.
Something totally different. This caught our eye, the Director of National Intelligence warning of nuclear annihilation. Take a listen to Tulsi Gabbard. Want to get your response.
As we stand here today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before, political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers. We must reject this path to nuclear war and work toward a world where no one has to live in fear of a nuclear holocaust.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard posted a bleak video on social media warning of a nuclear holocaust. The 3-minute video includes imagery of atomic blasts and simulations of American cities and landmarks like the Golden Gate Bridge being destroyed. Gabbard blames the political elite for pushing the world's superpowers into a global war.
This isn't some made-up science fiction story. This is the reality of what's at stake, what we are facing now. Because as we stand here today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before, political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers. Perhaps it's because they are confident that they will have access to nuclear shelters for themselves and for their families that regular people won't have access to.
Israel uncovered clear evidence that the Iranian regime was planning a surprise attack in coordination with their proxies. They had planned to invade from all sides, with thousands of terrorists and thousands of projectiles.
You know, it's one thing when you heard Jen Griffin reporting the amount of uranium that they've obtained and then how quickly Iran could enrich the uranium for nuclear weaponry. This is a chart we put up for our viewers to see just how urgent this would appear to be. As of May 2025, the IAEA, this is their own data provided to us. Ambassador, please speak to the ability that Iran has been and is building up when it comes to their nuclear strength.
Well, yeah, as you can see, this is not just, Israel crying wolf, which, unfortunately, there are some people accusing it of doing. The IAEA, which is no friend of Israel, which is very late to accuse Iran of being in noncompliance, which has, no Israelis and no Jews on its board. They're saying, pretty clearly that the Iranians were getting ready for a breakout. That was Israel's intelligence. I believe that was the American intelligence as well. And, they were at, I don't think it matters whether it's 9 bombs or 15 bombs or 20 bombs. The bottom line is, if you think about it, they shoot 200, 300 ballistic missiles. If they shoot 5 or 6 of them at a particular location and one of them happens to be a nuclear weapon, there is a not insignificant chance of mass destruction on a level we haven't seen since Hiroshima. So this is serious stuff. It's serious stuff for the entire world. It kind of pains me to see that we have American leaders that don't understand how important it was for America what Israel did last night. Because, as I said, we're all in range. There's nobody in the world that's out of range of a missile these days.
What do you think about that?
First off, I'll say this. I know, Tulsi, we could not have a stronger woman, a leader and representative of this nation sitting in that DNI seat. Both President Trump, his administration, and Tulsi understand this. The implications of the current conflicts. They are fighting against the military-industrial complex, the globalists, and even the warmongers to prevent a nuclear holocaust, which could come out of the Ukraine-Russia war. The EU continues to poke the bear, Russia, which has more nuclear warheads by volume than any other nation. Trump came in and was elected under the promise of bringing peace and stability to the world. He's trying to do that. He's trying to de-escalate things, as well as Tulsi. So this is a warning call. This is a warning message that if this continues, if we do not find a resolution to the Ukraine-Russia war, these are the potential implications, which I assure you nobody wants.
There is also, of course, the looming menace of Iran now just 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, really breakout time to nuclear enrichment capabilities.
Jonathan Lemire, what's the backstory here?
So she went to Hiroshima recently, and that's what she says is why she's posting this. But in most ways, she's accused of parroting Russian talking points here, that it has been from the Kremlin throughout the conflict in Ukraine that the West, that the U.S., that NATO is trying to push Russia by, punishing it for invading Ukraine, therefore putting the world on the brink of an atomic conflict. That is what she's saying here, that she's afraid that the, quote, elites want this war, and this is a warning to the U.S. and the West to not punish Russia for not agreeing to a Ukrainian ceasefire, because if Russia is punished, they might have to lash out, and we may head up towards the apocalypse. Senator John Kennedy, a Republican, said yesterday when shown this video that he thinks that Gabbard should, quote, change her meds, Katty K. So she's getting some pushback from Republicans, members of her own party. Well, she was a Democrat, but members of the Trump, those who are normally supportive of the Trump administration. And beyond the obvious Kremlin sort of shadow here, it's just plain weird.
Yeah, it's pretty weird and very ominous. It went out to 3.5 million followers.
What we're seeing now on our screens right now, massive plumes of smoke in Tel Aviv from what seems to be missiles that have been launched from Iran. We still don't know whether there's been any casualties or what the situation is on the ground, because at the moment this is the only shot that we have of what's happening. That's the skyline of Tel Aviv. Let's go to Noor Odeh, who joins us live from Amman. Is she there? Yeah, because she's in Amman. Okay. Noor, can you bring us to speed with what's happening in Israel? Do you have any information on the situation, certainly in Tel Aviv at the moment? And we're also hearing of air sirens that have been going off in other parts of the country.
That's right, Sarah. There have been sirens and warnings across the territory of Israel, and even in the occupied West Bank. Israelis have been instructed to take shelter and to be in safe rooms. That the Israeli army has seen at least the launch of 100 ballistic missiles in Israel's direction. Even here in Amman, we could see some attempts at interception over the skies of Amman. We heard sirens and instructions from the Jordanian armed forces to citizens to stay in their homes, to wait for further instructions. We know of at least one impact, one explosion in Tel Aviv. We don't have details or confirmation of where that impact happened, but what we're seeing, the lines that we're seeing in Israeli media talk about explosions over sensitive areas, explosions reported also across the occupied West Bank. Let's remind the viewers, this is a very small stretch of land, a very narrow stretch of land. Explosions in Tel Aviv can be heard very clearly in Ramallah, so the sound, of course, carries over, and people are still trying to gather information. Certainly Israel and the official sources in Israel haven't been forthcoming about where this impact, where this plume of smoke is coming from. But the Iranian retaliation, which the Israeli Prime Minister told citizens they should be expecting, has now begun, and the public was prepared for a ferocious retaliation from Iran. There have been at least 8 waves of Israeli airstrikes, in addition to clandestine activities and attacks on Iranian territory since 2 or 3 in the morning local time. And the Israeli government has been expecting and preparing for an Iranian retaliation.
Noor, it seems also these missiles that were fired, which Israel is saying was fired from Iran, we've had no confirmation from the Iranian side just yet, but it seems that they also spotted going over occupied West Jerusalem. People in Gaza had also said that they had spotted it. Just give us a sense with Tel Aviv, the importance of Tel Aviv in Israel, and judging from my experience of being there, that looks like it's a residential area. We still obviously don't know if there's anyone been injured, but this will be quite a blow. But it seems, though, as I say that Israel was expecting this, as it did warn its citizens to go to those shelters.
it absolutely was. And in fact, we heard from the Israeli Prime Minister, from the chief of the National Security Council, saying that Israel is continuing the attacks in order to mitigate, in order to limit the amount of damage that Iranian retaliation can do. And so there was an expectation of a very violent response from Iran. And this, as we've been hearing from military experts and analysts in Israel, is the beginning of such a response. We don't know, like I said, we don't have confirmation from official sources on the location, on the exact target of the impact that happened in Tel Aviv. But it is easy for Palestinians across the occupied West Bank, in occupied East Jerusalem, and even in Gaza to spot these incoming missiles, to see also the attempts at interception, because again, this is a narrow stretch of land and the geography is very interconnected. The distance between Ramallah and Tel Aviv, for example, is extremely small. It's less than 50 kilometers by air, and so it is easy to see even the coastline sometimes on a clear day. If you're in a high building in Ramallah, you can visually see it with the naked eye. So it's easy for all those videos that you're seeing of people spotting all of that incoming fire going to Israel.
Okay, and Noor, with the situation now on the ground for Israel and Iran, what's the latest when it comes to how it's preparing its people for these Iranian attacks? Because it says that it's going to happen and it's going to be big.
It's not new. These threats are not new. They've been coming from the Houthis just over the last several months. They were, coming from Hezbollah. They were coming from Hamas. Almost every home in Israel has a safe room, and regrettably, they're not going to take any chances. But at the same time, look, they intercepted 100 out of 100 drones last night, and there is also, reason to be concerned, also reason to feel that the Israeli Defense Forces are up to the challenge. And I don't know if you noticed this, but Israel had a lot of help last night with the interception of drones coming from some unusual places: Saudi Arabia, Jordan, even Qatar, because all those countries were in the line of fire, from Iran, and whether they were defending their own airspace or not. I mean, it also helped Israel, the fact that all these other countries, including even Turkey, were intercepting drones. Sandra, I would say in the 3,500-year history of the Jewish people, what happened last night is up there, with the splitting of the Red Sea, the Six-Day War, and the raid on Entebbe. I mean, it's that significant, and will go down, as one of the great events that will hopefully protect, the Jewish people. There's more Jews in Israel than any place else. Will protect the Jewish people for another 100 years. And I would say, with all the risks to Israel, the people of Israel right now are feeling a lot better. And I would say people in America, woke up this morning a lot safer than they were yesterday, because this is a threat that impacts America as well. It's only 10 minutes by hypersonic missile from Iran to the United States. So, when people say that America should not fight Israel's wars, what happened last night was Israel was actually fighting a war on behalf of America, and they did so successfully. And Americans as well as Israelis are safer this morning.
A significant statement from you, Ambassador.